It's going to be okay, dear. You're a bright girl. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's my fault that her dad's in jail. We don't even know each other that well. And if I tell the truth about what I really saw, then...
You probably wind up right back here.
What would you do if you were me?
My father used to say that life is about the journey. But I think it's more about who you take that journey with. And if this Ronnie means as much to you as it sounds, you're going to find a way to make things right. Somehow. Listen, if you tell me that you've seen the impossible, then I believe you. Most people, well, they only believe what they can see with their own eyes.
Hello all, welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Mandy.
And I'm Sam.
And today we are covering episode 3 of HBO Max's new show, Welcome to Derry, titled Now You See It. Please note, this is a spoiler-filled podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode yet and you don't want to be spoiled, come back and check us out after you've finished watching. Before we get started with anything, I want to mention that there's a glaringly obvious absence on the podcast today, and that is our fearless leader, Becky. Becky, unfortunately, had a death in the family very kind of unexpectedly. So they are dealing with that, and we send them all of our love and all of our prayers for healing and peace around all of this. It's a tough thing.
Very much so.
She didn't want to slow the train down. She wanted you guys to be able to have some new content this week. So we are going to soldier on without her. It's going to be tough, but I think between Sam and I, we probably could talk for the next 40 hours. And good luck editing this one, Becky. You're not even here to move us along.
Well, I am a very poor Becky substitute, but I send her all my love as well, and more than happy, honored to dig into this with you, Mandy. This is awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
we got no governor now. The brakes are off of this thing. We could just be sitting here talking for the next 6 hours. We're not editing it.
Yeah.
Love you, Beck. Okay.
Love you, Becky. She's never going to let me come on again.
All right. Before we get into the episodes, we've got some feedback from 2 of our loyal listeners on episode 2 via our What's On Tonight Facebook page.
Alma Contreras wrote, "Aw, bummer. I think I didn't catch y'all before you recorded. Oof, poor Ronnie and that disturbing, nightmarish birthing scene. Yeah, you and me both, Alma. The only parent that seems to care about his kids gets arrested."
We're only halfway through Alma's feedback, but I want to inject something here. One of the things that we're going to probably get into later is we're talking about like the different kind of horrors that are in, and that's horrors, not horrors. No horrors have shown up yet.
Just me.
Kind of horror. Penguin's kind of a hoe. Yeah, just us. Anyway, in general, the heavy special effects, the CGI scenes, to me, are not the really scary one. It's the psychological horror. That being said, Ronnie's mother's birth scene, that one, I don't know if I will ever be over that. But also, and the reason I stopped to interject, your point about the only parent that seems to care about their kid getting arrested, even more horrifying. Truly, one of the most terrifying things that's going on.
Really is. Like, it just digs into my heart and my gut. And one of the reasons is exactly what you're talking about, Mandy, is the parallel to the past and the present.
Right. It's the reality that is at the core of that whole scenario, and how very often that has and does happen. Yep. Especially families that are part of some kind of marginalized community. That being said, go ahead, Sam.
I feel like most of the grown-ups are very detached, and I am empathetic towards the kids of Derry. Us too. Yeah. It's no wonder why so many kids go missing. And Lily in the grocery store was crazy disturbing too. I know, the pickle dad. How creepy were the adults? Hashtag pickle dad.
Oh God, pickle dad.
How creepy were the adults in the background? Yeah, like
very
leaning in. I will let y'all know if I have nightmares about either one of those scenes. Shocked face emoji. Oh, thank you, Alma. Love your feedback.
Alma, we are right there with you. That scene in the grocery store, to me, one of the more frightening than some of the more CGI heavy scenes because of that feeling of being closed in. I think I mentioned on the last episode that my phobias, Cat in the Hat, Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, where you were being trapped and you couldn't get away. Very, very frightening. Claustrophobia, yeah. Erica Land says, these patty cake girls have got to go.
I'm with you, especially this episode. I'm with you, Erica.
I've just started calling Patty girl Pennywise. I'm loving that. The way they deliberately try to make her look Pennywise-esque. That's a very good
because she's
addition.
evil, too.
Yeah, because anybody who's had a 12-year-old girl bully them knows.
Oh, my.
So sometimes that is the true face of evil.
It really is. And it's a choice these girls are making.
It is a choice. Erica goes on to say, I will say, though, the actress who had to say her lines through a wad of bubble gum, you go, girl, that was funny. It was. I love that. I love how they add these little moments of humor in that kind of make the horror that much more jarring. And then Erica continues, as an educator myself, I have to say, F that teacher. Yeah, she's a capital B word. Erica, you are definitely a teacher. The way you're dancing around these cuss words. Hanlon is a new student. He didn't know how to find her classroom. Give some grace and be welcoming. It was so disconcerting to see none of the adults stepping up to help that boy being beaten up. After the quote-unquote birthing scene and the quote pickle jar scene, it, as Pennywise the clown, is child's play. It is hardcore with the nightmare fuel. Erica, I think you were saying exactly what we were just saying, that the real horror here is what it uses to prey on children, to feed on them. But as adults, what is terrifying to us is seeing how the human evil that's already there, who hasn't had, again, some high school or junior high bully that you can't flash back on and picture the glee on their face when they're torturing their victims. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of triggering stuff in here. And hey, you know what? For us, having grown up in the 80s and 90s, you can also identify a lot with these kids just wandering this town. Nobody knows where they're at. Nobody knows what they're doing. Just whatever.
100%.
So thank you both for writing in, and our apologies for not seeing these before we recorded.
Episode 2 was written by Gadalis Del Carmen and Gabe Hobson and directed by Andy Machete. All
right, Sam, will you share the synopsis for this episode?
In 1908, a young Shaw has a vivid experience of a horrible man who stalks and pursues him when he is saved by a young Rose. They leave the forest, and she tells him that they are no longer in danger and explains what that thing is. After that, Shaw and Rose spend the entire summer together until Shaw left Derry. In the present, Lily is discharged from Juniper Hill. In school, Lily and Ronnie plan to obtain visual evidence to exonerate Hank. Shaw, after finding nothing useful in the car, sends Halloran to use his abilities from the air. Halloran has a vision of the 1935 Bradley massacre and of bodies floating before escaping. Leroy saves Halloran from falling out of the helicopter. Shaw visits Rose at her pawn shop about her termination letter and lies to her about the reason for the excavations. Lily and Ronnie recruit Will and Rich into their plan, and Rich claims that the thing is an Orisha, an evil spirit. The group sets out to summon it. They go to a cemetery for the ritual when they discover that Rich is not sure if it'll work. As soon as they leave, they have a vision of spirits chasing them, with Lily taking pictures and Will one of the clown.
Ooh. So obvious, big difference with this episode is that this is the first kind of twinkling of seeing it in its Pennywise iteration.
Yes.
Just very briefly. I love the puns and how they work. That now you see it, now you don't, but literally now you see it. Yeah. Well, let's do what we've been doing. We'll just kind of go through scene by scene and talk about some of the high points, low points. So the first scene, we are flashing back to 1908. And as we
Mhm.
mentioned in the summary, we find out that Shaw was a one-time Derry resident as a
Yeah.
child, and he was friends with a Rose who runs Secondhand Rose.
Yeah.
I thought that
Did
was
you see that
awesome.
twist? Did you see that twist coming?
Not
Because
at
I didn't.
all. No, and here's my thing about that is later on, like we're get into more of the military stuff, and I was kind of disappointed for a minute when we find out that the military absolutely knows that it is a supernatural thing
Mm-hmm.
and how long it's been here
Mm-hmm.
and what it can do, and that they were still going to use it for mind control because it started to feel like it was going into this territory of, I don't know, like what was it, the third or the fourth season of Buffy where it was all about the military.
Yes. The
I didn't
military using the
really,
demons, MK
yeah.
Ultra, that kind of stuff.
Right. I didn't love that season, and
No.
I was okay with the military plot as long as it was something along the lines of the military only heard rumors about it, didn't really
Mm-hmm.
know what it was. But once I heard him start explicitly laying out that they knew it had been there for 300 years, that they knew essentially where it was at, they knew it had a cycle. At first, I was kind of disappointed by that because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, this is just going to be a little bit too on the nose. But
Mm.
then they threw in this twist. I didn't want, I guess that's the thing is like, I just thought that Shaw was this then going to be this stereotype of the
Mm-hmm.
bad general. But this humanizes him, I
Yes.
guess, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. That after the show, they do like a little deep dive behind the scenes of the show. And I believe it was Andy and Barbara Machete who talked about they wanted to make the Derry It expedition personal for Shaw. And like you said, it humanized him. I was curious because I work in a VA hospital, very much immersed in military culture. I respect the military. I definitely respect veterans. This is very on brand for the military to get scared and want to use any weapon possible.
For sure.
Because also we know this is going to end horribly.
Right.
Because they're not investigating it in the movie, it 1 or 2. And then I didn't see the Rose transition coming. And when that happened, I was like, oh my gosh. That's when I thought Shaw was a little boy in the beginning. But I didn't know about it beforehand because I just
Yeah.
wondered, I'm like, who would be age appropriate with Rose? And I was like, kind of just really leave Shaw?
Right. Well, when she aged up into the modern era, or well, not modern era, the 60s era,
1962. Yeah.
Rose, right. That's when I realized I bet
Yeah,
that Shaw
same.
did
Same.
not see.
I was
Well,
like,
look, I don't want to
what?
jump ahead on that because we're
No,
going to
no,
go
no.
in chronological order. But I do want to say I loved
Yeah.
the flashback scene. It's catnip to me when Stephen King does, and I know he's not the writer. That this is just inspired by, but it feels very true
Mm-hmm.
to his vision. And I never loved Stephen King more than when he's writing about the past. His modern voice, quite honestly, doesn't really work for me. I like his more
I'm with
modern
you.
stuff. It just
Yeah, I'm
doesn't
with you.
resonate as well. Like his 12-year-old girls sound like a 75-year-old man from Maine, like
It's like the Dawson's Creek of it all. It's like no one talks like this.
right, exactly. But what I think he does well is exploring like horror from the
Mm-hmm.
past. I love a creepy carnival.
Same.
Did you notice that there were some turtles that were being knocked down? It's kind of
Yes.
funny because it was the clowns in the little knot, where you throw the baseball and try to knock stuff down.
Yes.
Clowns are always there, but they had like clowns and turtles
I
interspersed, so
love
that
it.
was kind of cool.
My little grandpa turtle
And I
return.
also read where it was, I think it was like Bujov, the strong man. That
Mm.
is a callback to, I think it was a producer from the film that apparently in several places throughout this episode, they used names of people from the cast and crew of either Welcome to
Wow.
Derry or It or both as just little Easter eggs for, and which I love.
Aw.
That
That's
reminded
very
me of
cool.
when Becky and I were doing what we do in the shadows. They had a lot of that
Yeah.
meta kind of stuff
I
in
love
there.
that. And right there with you, the carnival was just, this show is so well done. It was bright colors. It brought up, memories of anyone who's been to a carnival or a circus. And as we go into the tent, it really kind of highlighted for me, I guess, as an adult watching this, just how much we took advantage of people with mental or physical disabilities. And they didn't have anywhere else to go. This was the only way to do it. And because they moved from town to town, it was probably the safest.
So you remember that too, right? Because it's not like that anymore. But when we were kids, guys, it was very common to go to, they weren't nearly as cool looking, the carnivals that we grew up going to.
Yeah.
But they had freak shows. People, human beings usually, like you said, that had some kind of physical disability or something like that and were often being taken advantage of.
Yeah. I mean, the being hunted was prior to my time, our time seeing it, but there was no one that was going to stop it. They were transient people. And so in a way, some of them formed communities, and it was a way to do this. I did laugh when I was watching it, and the stilts man goes up to Little Shaw and says, "Step right up into a grotesquerie of horror beyond your darkest imaginations." And I just thought, oh, he's been on to online dating.
That's funny. You should make that like your profile. I haven't done online dating, but don't you have like where you can put like a quote or something like that? You should use that. One of the notes that I made, I want to bring this up because I talk about this every chance I get. I am a massive Stephen King fan, but it's so hard to rank. And I can't say that it is not my favorite, but I also can't truthfully say that I love it more than the other one that Carnival Scene reminded me of, Bag of Bones. Which is, if you've never read Bag of Bones, guys, don't watch the movie. Don't watch the made-for-TV movie.
They haven't done it justice ever.
No, but go and read that one. It is incredible, and it was some of the horror in it was set around the same era. And I was not alone in that. I went and I looked up some articles about different Easter eggs just to see if there's anything I might have missed. And a couple of them also mentioned that this seemed to be kind of a throwback to Bag of Bones. So I thought that was pretty cool. Did you happen to read up on who the piano player was?
No.
Because I used to love to go into the fun houses when I was a kid.
Yes.
It's that feeling of like you're repulsed, but you're also like super duper excited and feeling brave. I thought that the guy looked like Tim Curry, which is why I took note of it. It's not, it's Andy Machete.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That totally passed my brain.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's so cool.
If I had my own TV show, I would definitely be working myself in.
Yeah, of course. It's like right there. Why would you go through the casting process? Give me $20 a day or however much they pay the extras. And
I just love the little wink and nod. I love the wink and nod of it all. I think that's great. Yeah. So he goes through the fun house, and it's all very creepy and weird. And is that where he sees the old man for the first time in the fun house, or is it in the forest?
In the first time in the fun house. So the interesting thing I heard, because I didn't pick up on this in the show, was that the man he sees in the fun house is actually a human who has some disabilities and freaks young Shaw out, understandably.
Okay.
And then what happens is in the woods, it uses that memory to torment Shaw.
So in the fun house, the scary guy with one eyeball tells him, now you see it. So if he's a real human being, I still think he has to be an instrument of it.
Maybe he has the shine.
Or he's just one of the humans that it manipulates to be part of the horror.
That'd be really cool.
So he sees the scary guy, runs out, and he finds his dad, who looks remarkably like my favorite president, Teddy Roosevelt. Which I guess is about appropriate.
About right.
Yeah. And then they get in the car and they head out of town. Before we leave the carnival, I loved the clown. We see a clown. We don't know if it's a good clown. Are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Yeah.
You don't know if it's Pennywise. It looks like a woman.
I had a lot of questions from this episode, and I mean, there's not like a super great time to like bring in where Rose says later on in the episode he can't leave the forest because they're going to do like the other two seasons and then it'll go back to 1908. I hypothesized something happened around 1908 for him to be able to break out of the forest. I don't know what that would be.
Maybe.
So like, because she was very convinced that they were safe out there.
But when she says you can't leave the forest, does she mean phically? Like when in the movies where he physically, his real actual body was in the sewer, is it that he can still manipulate people but within a certain range? I don't know. That's a great theory. That would make a lot of sense.
because there was a lot of like little tidbits, because I'm fascinated by the lore of it. They do a little bit about him being a metaphysical entity, but they don't really talk a lot about his origins. So like I'm fascinated to know more. How did they trap him in there? Like, because they were safe. Didn't come after them. Like, yeah, you would think the manipulation would still have lasted, but it seems like they had a fine summer after that.
Yeah.
So I'm so confused.
So
the clown looked creepy.
Yeah, so they leave the fair. The car breaks down, and he asks them to go buy some water, probably to cool the engine down, I guess, because this is a jalopy from 1908. And there are some native people randomly selling water by the side of the road, which I found strange.
I did too.
Really?
I was like, that's what we used to do?
Right. I first of all, I was like, this is 1908, 5 cents for a jar of water? That seems like highway robbery to me. But also, it just like, I don't know, man. I just didn't ever hear about the era of people randomly selling water on dirt roads in tiny communities.
Yeah, because they were on the way from the fair back to the military base, it sounded like, where they were living. And I was like, okay, I guess it's kind of isolated and maybe people break down. Who knows? It would be great if there was some sort of spell or something, or some reason stuff would break down down there.
Because this is going to be a tricky plot line for them to pull off, because you do have a bit of the magic natives trope going on here, which I think we've discussed before, that the writers have said they're trying to build upon that more, so that these characters are not just, saviors who come in to mystically help the white people who are the real protagonists of
they're
everything.
Actually whole people.
Right. And it does make sense that if they are the first people that are there, that they would have had much more experience with learning about this thing and how to control it and combat it. I don't want to see him fall too far down this mystical narrative.
I'm with you. I know that they've worked with the Wabanaki Nation to ensure authentic cultural representation and bringing in those parts, because the indigenous people in Derry, just like Derry itself, are fictional. Their tribe is known as Children of Maturin, which I did not know, but of course.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And I'm not sure if that is the indigenous tribe or what I suspect to be a faction within the indigenous tribe that are in charge of protecting the world from Pennywise. So I'm not sure.
Clearly, Rose is, even as a child, because so then he meets Rose selling the water, and he trades her his slingshot. The slingshot shows up, which is a direct callback to Bill Denbrough's slingshot from the original Losers Club. And he trades her the slingshot that his dad had gotten for him for the fair. And then they start hanging out. He's clearly got a little crush on her. And they're hanging out in the woods one day. All of a sudden, bing, bang, boom, crazy, scary old man from the funhouse shows up.
I gotta say, when he said Pennywise as that man from the circus, don't be afraid, come closer.
Right.
I was like, okay, kids.
Get out.
Nothing good follows that conversation.
Never in a million years has anything good ever come from... Wait a minute, we don't want to say that. It was like, okay, if a fireman is in your home and there is a fire, but in general, a creepy man in the woods tells you don't be afraid. Literally, he has no reason to tell you. Why is he in those woods? Why is he in, or the fun house? Let's go back to that. Why is he in the fun house? Yes. He does not belong trying to creep up on you like that.
Yeah, it was really weird. And maybe he said that. Maybe it was the actual man in the circus. But I just wrote down, those are not two good sentences for anyone.
I think he said it in both. Didn't he say it in both places?
Oh, maybe.
I think he said it in the fun house and then again in the forest.
Well, and also, I don't know about you, but if I saw a half-naked old man spider crawling at me in the forest, howling
doesn't even
like
have
a
to
lion.
get to spider crawling. Half-naked old man, you had me running already. It doesn't even have to get to the spider part.
Yeah, the CGI wasn't the best, but I just imagine what I would do in that situation alone in the forest. I'm like, oh no, I'd have to change my pants. There's no way.
Well, and I'm glad you said that about the CGI not being the best, because I think that a lot of people, again, I'm giving a lot of grace to the story writers, because I think they're really doing a phenomenal job. And here's how I look at the whole CGI thing, because again, that part is not super scary to me. To me, it looks pretty fake. But honestly, I think that that's kind of the point, because for children, the horror of Pennywise are things that adults would never fall for that. When a naked old man with one eye says, "Come on over here, don't be afraid," they're not going to fall for that. But kids
No.
do.
Yeah.
Their imagination is much more powerful. So it draws on these seemingly impossible, movie trope nightmares, because those are the things that children fear. So it makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about it that way. That really makes a lot of sense. It doesn't have to be realistic like it would for adults. It'd be like, but for kids, yeah, it just doesn't have to be realistic. They
Yeah.
haven't developed that ability to differentiate as well.
Yeah, they're just figuring out that there are terrifying things in the world, and they're still half children, and the things that children fear usually are the things that are in their imagination. He's making those come to life. So, at any rate, that's how we find out that General has history in Derry. Then we go out from that, and I loved, though, that final scene when he was running out of the forest, and she goes, "Don't look back," and he looks back like a dumbass.
I know. Like, I mean, that's kind of like, for me, if you ever see something on me and you say, "Don't move," I'm gonna move.
Yeah, I'm being judgy, but quite honestly, you're right. I might end up being the looker back, or because if you tell me don't move, I'm going to start screaming.
Yeah, like, what do you mean?
Around. So we're back in 1962, Derry, and we are at Juniper Hill, and Lily's been sent there after, even though she gave the freaking sheriff exactly what he was asking for. She's been sent back to Juniper Hill. Her mom is coming to pick her up. And we find out that poor Lily does have at least one person in her corner.
Yeah, I didn't catch her name. I know
They
the
didn't say.
legend. Yeah, the legendary Madeline Stowe was the helper, the housekeeping person, I believe. I looked on like IMDb and stuff, and I can't find her name.
They
It says
didn't
like
say.
to be announced, which
Yeah.
makes me wonder. Okay, this is complete tinfoil Hattie theory. There's nothing to support this. I wonder if she's a part of the children of Maturin, or she is like a manifestation of Maturin.
I don't know. My initial thought was, and I wrote down, I do not trust it. Why did I write Ingrid? Was her name Ingrid?
I didn't hear a name, and there's none listed. I could be wrong, though. I didn't do a deep dive.
Well, for some reason in the moment I wrote, I do not trust Ingrid, and I was talking about the housekeeper. So Ingrid may have been the name, because I saw the same thing you did when I was going to look up cast facts and things like that there was no name for her. They were calling her Madeline Stowe. Madeline Stowe is an icon, I could see. But
I mean, she's been around since then. Yeah, she does look immortal in her looks.
And she doesn't look like she's had like work done either. She just looks like a woman in her 30s, and she has to be in her 60s at least.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's absolutely amazing, and just such soulful eyes. We'll call her Ingrid now until we learn.
Until we hear otherwise. At any rate, she's the housekeeper there, and we find out that she was kind to Lily the last time she was there, and she gives Lily some great advice. Yeah, she tells her, what exactly did she tell her? Do you remember? Because it comes back
something like
on.
To be true to yourself.
It was
just speak your truth.
Yeah, that was it. It was to speak your truth, to go out and to tell the truth, because she is telling her that she is very upset that Ronnie's father has been arrested, and she does feel guilty. Yep. Which I just feel bad for that kid, because what else was she supposed to do? She had no way of knowing the ramifications. She's learning. Yeah. I want to be real clear, because I did see some discourse with different people, like on TikTok and things, talking about Lily versus Ronnie. And a couple of the Black creators that I saw were saying, we're giving too much grace to Lily because she should have known better. And maybe that is true, but I genuinely don't think in her life experience to that point, she had the maturity to understand she was putting anybody in danger just by saying, I don't know whether he was there, or I didn't see him.
Yeah. I agree with everyone in that she's a little white girl. Like, of course she has, like you said, her lived experience. She has no idea how dangerous that is because of her unearned privilege. She's never had to.
Right.
And so, like, I hesitate to encourage anyone to do like a Lily versus Ronnie.
Right.
Even behind the scenes, they seem to be really close friends. This is a realistic representation of the inequality in our world back then, currently, and yes, she has unearned privilege. She's never had to think about that.
Right.
And
She's
just like the other
child.
Just like the other kids in the school don't know about Pennywise because they're not ostracized. They're not the easy targets yet.
Right.
So it's, we see that change in this episode, but it's like she absolutely did the wrong thing because of her unearned privilege.
Right.
Where would Ronnie make that decision? Unfortunately, no, because we as a society treat Black and brown children like little mini adults, and that's not fair. And so the communities, people who love them, have to protect them. So from a young age, Ronnie has learned not to trust the police, not to do what they say, that authority isn't to be trusted. And we saw this all in America in the Black Lives Matter movement, where it took a lot of white people a really long time to realize, what do you mean the police are bad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, not all, obviously, but it's like, what do you mean police can be corrupt?
Right.
And so it's like Black and brown people have known this forever. And so it's something where I understand as much as I possibly ever could that she is skating on privilege. Is that her fault? No, she's 12. She's going to grow up and hopefully learn to be better. And I think even these experiences, she's changing.
And honestly, that's why I say I don't feel like we should be too hard on Ronnie, because the mistake she made, Lily, because the mistake she made, Ronnie was absolutely correct to school her on what she did wrong. 100%. But I don't think she had the lived experience to know that she was making that mistake. And where the difference lies is that you have a Marge who sees how and feels guilt about playing into this system of bullying and hate. But Lily paid the ultimate price and still has learned her lesson. And that's kind of what the housekeeper is telling her is, if you want to make this right, you will make it right. You go out there and you tell the truth and show your friend that you are going to try to correct your wrong.
Absolutely. And I think that's really well said about it. And she is changing. I think some of the catches, and this happened a little bit with the movies too, where most of us watching the show are adults watching children make these decisions.
Exactly.
And so it is really hard to realize just how young these 12-year-olds are. And yes, the inequality is just as strong now as it's ever been. Back in 1962, a little white girl in a rural town in upstate Maine is not going to understand. That doesn't give her a pass. She did a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I completely understand Ronnie. I think Ronnie's actually being a little gentle on her.
Right.
Even in this episode.
Yeah, if it were my parent,
as much as we can, because stuff is really awful, especially nowadays in the US, is following Ronnie's lead. Because Ronnie hasn't completely forgiven her, and nor do I think Ronnie needs to. She's open to Lily making this right as much as these kids ever can. I think following Ronnie's lead.
I agree, but I don't even think that it's that she hasn't forgiven her. I do think she's forgiven her. I don't think that means that Ronnie has forgotten how it happened.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think she 100% trusts her completely yet, but we definitely do see in this episode that they are working their way back to trusting each other.
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely.
Which I'm very, very, very happy about. So she gets out of Juniper Hill. Just have a note here. Fuck Lily's mom. I hate that lady.
Oh, that's where our vitriol should go to.
Yeah. Yes.
And the chief.
Yeah.
And the chief.
So we're at the jail. Chief Bowers is trying to intimidate Hank Grogan. Obviously, he knows something. Like, where was Hank? Do you think Hank is part of the Children of Maturin?
Ooh, maybe. I just thought that the chief was lying and just making up a bunch of stuff.
Obviously, we know Hank Grogan is not guilty. I got the feeling he's not telling the truth about where he was and that those were his cigarettes.
Oh, I thought his cigarettes were there because he works there. No. So I'm like, what do you mean? Like what? Of course his cigarettes would be there.
Well, it wasn't the movie theater. It was just that part of town. There was like an area. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but where I didn't say they found it in the theater. It was somebody that saw him in the area. I felt like when he said that and he was like, I can tell when people are like, why would he do that? Because he knows that Hank Grogan probably didn't kill these kids. He's just trying to pin it on him. But
Yeah.
he definitely felt like he was intimating, I know you're lying about something. And Hank did have some flashes of, I don't know
Yeah.
if guilt is the right word, because he never flat out is like, I was at home. He doesn't reiterate like I was at home, I was, or any of that.
Yeah.
He just says, I didn't kill those kids.
That's a great point. Oh,
Yeah.
what if he was seeing someone and he doesn't want that to
was
get
my
out?
thought until this very moment. But as we're saying this, I'm thinking there is a collective group of people already working in that town who are aware what lies beneath. I think it's possible that Hank Grogan is one of those guys.
That totally makes sense because the good people of Derry are all people of color. It's like,
so far, yeah.
Yeah, like and that would make sense, just like how you and Becky have talked about and we've all talked about that Pennywise targets the outsiders because they're easier targets. So it makes more sense. And also those adults have unfortunately been targeted by systemic inequalities and hate and violence, so they're more open to the horrors of Derry. That would be great. I would love if he was a part of Children of Maturin. I would love that.
Yeah. So then we're back at school, and Rich and Will are talking about, everything that's gone down. And there's a sad, awful scene where somebody's vandalized Ronnie's locker, and we see the stupid patty cakes over there staring at her. And Will and Rich start talking about it. And I only want to bring that up because Rich is saying they don't just throw people in jail for no reason. And Will says, are we talking about the same country?
I wrote that down too. And I was like, there you go. That's great. I mean, so to empathize with people on the internet that are being hard on Lily, I was kind of hard on the boys in this scene, and I did have to catch myself and walk it back. These are just 12-year-olds. They don't know Ronnie super well just yet. And I was like, why didn't you guys go over and help her or let her know she's not alone? But I'm like, they are children.
They're children.
And like,
my deepest, most unsettling fears, things that I have nightmares about, are about those moments of vulnerability where the veil between decency and violence is thin and there's no one around to save you. And in many ways, junior highs and high schools, they're like little pits of horror where awful things happen. Like Lord of the Flies. That's what I'm trying to think of. They're very, tribal people.
Feral children.
Yeah, feral. I've got a group of girlfriends that we've been friends since we were 12 years old, but we all three met at the library one day when we'd all been dropped off by our parents right before 7th grade started. And we are still friends to this day, but we said some of the most awful shit to each other when we were kids, like vile, mean, hateful things. And we were friends. Kids can just be vicious.
In my work as a psychologist, and I don't work with children, but I have in the past, I've trained on children. Anyone under the age of 25 has not fully developed their prefrontal cortex, which is decision-making, impulse control, insight-based work. And in the later teen years, it's much better, but honestly, at 12, you're closer to a child than you are to an adult, and your brain just isn't there making the decisions that we as adults are watching this show and judging with our fully formed prefrontal cortex. It's very true to kids.
And you have all the
even
hormones.
When I felt that. Yeah, and hormones.
Yeah.
And like when I was watching it, I had my adult judgment of two of my favorite characters. I was like, you're leaving my little girl all alone? And then I was like, that's right, they're babies. And that's part of what makes it so interesting.
I had a family. It was very common, and this is no offense to my family. We were all doing the best we can, and honestly, this wasn't an unusual way, especially in the South, to grow up. My family's motto, and I was the smallest one in the house growing up, was if somebody picks on you and you get in a fight at school, if you don't win at home, you're going to get a beating when you get home from at least your older siblings. So it was meant to, I don't know, man. In certain segments of the world in the 80s and 90s, it was very violent between children. Like, I watched The Black Telephone last year. Did you watch that?
You mean The Black Phone?
The Black Phone, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Which I loved the story. I loved the movie. But my daughter felt so bad for me watching that because it was incredibly triggering. And it wasn't the supernatural, it was the violence between
Oh yeah, the dad and the little girl.
the
Yeah,
dad and the
and
little
like
girl
parents and all the
and
kids. Yeah.
right, and the kids fist fighting and all of that
Yep.
stuff. That was not far off from what it was like. Nothing ever made me angrier than seeing people bully someone smaller than them. So in my mind, I am the hero of all my stories, but also I also firmly believe most of us, even the ones of us that got bullied, were a bully at some
Oh
point.
yeah.
Maybe not
Like
even intentionally.
there's a whole movement in psychology about understanding cultural implications of corporal punishment and also how it affected kids and adults,
Yeah.
regardless of whether it was culturally appropriate or not. And it's a whole rabbit hole if you want to go down. I do know it is not an easy topic, and it's not black and white. It's not cut dry, but it is something that is fascinating if the listeners want to nerd out on all that stuff. And speaking of poor kids that are just trying to exist in the world, Lily and
Yeah.
Rose, oh, not Rose, oh, gosh, the flower names, Lily and Ronnie
Yeah.
in the bathroom. I was just like, oh, I just wanted to hug Ronnie so bad.
Yeah. But I love that they're working back together again. I wrote a
Yes.
note here saying that I love seeing the girls work together. Like it's just awesome that they're going to not go into this direction of, of them being ostracized from each other. Because I like their relationship.
I know we're all kind of rooting for Ronnie to be Mike Hanlon's dad. I kind of see like a little cute little like teen crush between
It could be
Lily
because
and
I
Ronnie
kind of
too.
got
I don't know.
I don't, and again, if we talk about, we make up these things that may or may not be where they're going with things. I kind of got a feeling from the way that she turned down Maddie in the first episode, and then something else that I thought that I might just be seeing things, but like when she's in the grocery store and she's getting hemmed in, Lily, the floor is the color of the trans flag.
Oh, I didn't even
It's
pick up on
it's
that.
the exact like an anachronistic. It doesn't even
Yeah.
fit with the rest of the vibe of the grocery
No.
store, but the
No.
floor was the pink and blue and white of the trans
Oh.
flag. So I've kind of wondered if they're going to have some kind of representation of that. Even if it's them just having a strong female friendship, that is again a departure, an improvement
Yes.
in the it universe
Yeah.
because it was a product of its time, but one of the
Yes.
things that if we're going to continue to tell stories in this world, is that
Mhm.
they're going to have movies and TV shows that could pass the Bechdel test because I don't think any of them
Yes.
have so far.
No, they will not. Well, I mean, what gender is Pennywise?
Right. Yeah, maybe he is.
I mean, we do refer to it as a him, and it,
He
which
presents
don't
as
refer to people
masculine
as
most
it.
of the
But
time.
yeah, like don't. But he's a metacosmic, creature, and
I
has
still don't think that
taken
passed the Bechdel test because
no.
it has to be two explicitly female presenting people. At any
Yes.
rate,
But
I
like,
would agree with you. I love seeing them together.
yeah, and homosexual relationships, bisexual relationships are seen in Stephen King's universe. I loved it in the newer It movies that they portrayed Eddie and Richie like as having a
A bit of a
romance.
romance, yeah.
Yeah, even if it was one-sided with poor Richie for the most part, because that's what I read in the book. I thought that they were going to date each other in the book too.
I didn't see that the first time. Well, the first 15 times I read it back as a kid, but I'm going back now and I'm actually listening to it as I work most days. But I feel like there is an undertone there. Now,
Yeah,
it's not explicit, which I didn't pick up on because Stephen King had an out gay couple. That's the first
yeah,
horrifying thing that happens in
yeah,
the modern day Derry of the time is
yeah.
Adrian's murder when he got
Ugh,
thrown into. Oh man.
yeah.
And wow, listening to that again, it's like normally when I'm thinking in this context, I'm kind of judging Stephen King a bit. And honestly, I should be giving him his flowers because that was very progressive for the time. Was it perfect by a more modern lens? Absolutely not.
It's also very yeah, like progressive for its time and realistic. I mean, it's realistic today
Exactly.
too.
Yeah.
So as horrific as it was, it actually that tracks for Derry. As
Right.
we've seen there's so much hate in Derry that
Right.
Pennywise feeds on.
I was
So
disappointed that they didn't include it in the movie. That I felt like that was a really crucial understanding of the interplay between the evil of it and how it uses the existing evil in human beings.
Did the second movie.
Yeah. Oh, did they? I don't. I've blocked out so much of that. I actually was watching because it came on after the rewatch that I had today, and
Oh.
I should probably go back and give it another shot. I think I was just left with this. It's not the version that, like, a little just disappointment that it didn't have some of the things that I really loved about the made for TV movie or the book. And so maybe I should give it another watch, just with a different expectation. So at any rate, so we leave the school and we are going back to the military base. What we find out, they know that there is a cycle. They seem to have a decent understanding of what it is, or at least as much of an understanding as anybody, that it is something that has been there for 300 years. In the book, didn't they say it had been there for thousands of years?
So yes, so I wrote this down too because of course I'm playing like little like couch detective with all this because I'm just eating up all these facts about him. So what Shaw says is because they were referring to the vehicle that was in the end of the last episode and that they didn't find anything on it. I think that's when they talked about it being from the Bradley massacre. And then Shaw says, well, the creature's been here at least 300 years before the invention of the modern day vehicle.
Right.
So I'm paraphrasing. So I looked it up. The modern day gasoline vehicle was invented between 1885 and 1886. So 300 years before that would be the 1580s. So I have so many questions. How does Shaw know all of this?
Right.
We do know that the indigenous tribe that is in charge of protecting place, and I apologize, I got it wrong. The fictional tribe is the Shakopiwa tribe. So it sounds like Children of Maturin is a faction within the Shapokiwa tribe. So I think that's what white people know about it. And the tribe actually knows much more. Because in the books, he has been here since for thousands of years, to my knowledge. Because I remember he's been around for a very long time.
Maybe what I thought at that point was, is this a deviation from the book? But I think he learned from Lily. I mean, not Lily, excuse me. These dang flower names,
I know.
Rose. I think he learned from Rose. I think it's going to turn out that he. Remember how in the book and with the original Losers Club, there were certain things that they knew and like luck that they had and things that happened to them that some part of their subconscious knew, even if they didn't consciously remember Derry or what happened at all. And then they end up, of course, losing that once the curse is broken. But I kind of think that's what's going on, is that summer that what's going to turn out to be when they flash back, if they get the season in 1908, which is the plan to, have the next season be 1935 and the one before that be 1908. I think it's going to turn out that Lily maybe gave him the information about what it is and what she knows from her tribe or did know as a child.
Yeah, that makes sense because it cuts away, but she talks to him when she goes can you keep a secret?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, that's when the 1500s was when the tribe first
settled
knew
there
about it.
Yeah.
Settled there maybe. So I have I just have so many questions.
I feel like it's going to come back.
Oh yeah. It's like a little Easter egg. I'm like, how do they know this? I'm get a feeling we'll find out about it.
Well, and this is here why I want to say and it's hard to do this chronologically sometimes because we're going to get to that scene in a minute, but this is where I was starting to get nervous about how do they know that? And is this going to be another one of those Buffy season of it's all about the military industrial complex, which I just didn't want to go down that road if it was just that cut and dried. But the discovery that this is not this obsession of just every time I think about their project to use it in the Cold War, it makes me think about the Kate Bush song Experiment Number 9. Have you you're a little bit younger than me, so you may not have grown up listening to Kate Bush, but she has a whole song about how the military is using fear as a weapon, and then the weapon ends up turning on them. So I was basically right. I wasn't so much interested in just that story. So now that we know that maybe even Shaw thinks that that's what's going on, but really it's Derry calling him home. Or maybe even Rose calling him. We don't know. We don't know. And I'm going to stop on that because we're going to get to that here in just a few minutes. So the next scene, though, is the plane that we talked about earlier, Dick going up in the sky. Halloran is tasked with taking Dick up, and just going from the air to see if they can locate Pennywise's lair by using his psychic gifts. And while he's up there, he has a complete freak out.
So I didn't so yes, well, like I saw this and I was like, welcome back, Russo, missed you, buddy. And so I was fascinated by this when maybe it's my pregnancy brain, but I knew Pennywise made contact with Halloran. I didn't really understand what was going on other than he was trying to find a location. And maybe other people were confused, but what they talked about behind the scenes was that while Halloran was trying to get into Pennywise's head or trying to get into that signal, Pennywise entered the door into his brain.
Yeah.
And that whole sequence was inside Halloran's brain. And Halloran realizes, and I'm quoting Chris Chalk, where he says, wow, this guy's better at this than I am, and you want me to catch this guy? I don't think that's going to happen. So that sort of visceral reactions that we see from him in the scene is because he's never experienced someone else in his brain taking over. It's
kind of like the quote of, be careful how long you stare into the abyss, lest the abyss staring back at you. And I think that makes sense because of the line later where he says this thing wasn't supposed to see us. I think that one of the things that I thought was cool about that is that Dick Halloran being part of the greater lore of Stephen King universe, that in Dr. Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining, so Dick Halloran, as a reminder, was the caretaker before Danny's parents came to the Overlook Hotel. And in Dr. Sleep, which is the sequel to that, we find out about these psychic vampires. And Danny has The Shining, of course. He is all grown up in Dr. Sleep. But in that, the psychic vampires in that, they have that ability. Like when you are sensing them, they are sensing you as well. And it's like a whole race against the clock to see who's more powerful and who can... Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting callback. Like, I love how they layered that in.
We've talked about this. Halloran is young right now. He doesn't have all this experience.
Yeah.
He's thinking it's a good idea to go with the military to do this.
His friends.
Yeah. And then, it kind of reminds me, I'm watching Talamasca. It's one of the Anne Rice spinoffs.
I'm not watching it, but I know what Talamasca is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and, in there's a character who's also possesses telepathic abilities. And one of the other characters says to him, it's very dangerous to have a gift and not know fully how to control it, because your mind becomes a two-way street.
Yeah.
And that's what this reminded me of, like, Halloran, you're in danger.
Yeah. Well, and then this is like, I guess that's what I was inexpertly trying to get at, is it feels like I love the way that it's a layer in the universe, because it's like, this is very potentially going to be where the old Dick Halloran gained the knowledge and wisdom he had to pass on about the limitations and the things that you need to do to protect yourself. It's interesting to see how young, because again, he looks like Scatman Carruthers, like it's such a perfect casting, but he doesn't have all the gravitas and the all-knowing kind of sense that you got from that character, which makes absolute sense because he is a young man. So it's like we're getting a twofer here. We're getting this awesome It universe, but we're also kind of getting to see the making of Dick Halloran, which
I love it.
Love it.
So good.
Yeah, and I didn't know that he has pink eye, though. I don't know if you noticed, but it absolutely looks like he has pink eye in that. Before he ever gets freaked out, he's sitting there and they're talking to him. And I'm like, does that actor pink eye?
Yeah, it's like
something in this scene.
Does he have pink eye? Like, I couldn't tell if he was just really tired, because I would be exhausted too if I had to hunt a mystical entity. So yeah, I couldn't tell if maybe that was done after these intensive scenes and it was just draining. I couldn't tell. I will say I cracked up when he was trying to impress his friends in the tent before he left.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Halloran is a handsome fella. I can see Queen Aretha Franklin giving him a chance.
Yes, I love that line. That was so funny. But he's also a shit talker at that age.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I just think it's such a funny quirk for the character. I would have imagined, if I had to pick a young Dick Halloran from what I knew of his character, to have been somebody much more like Hanlon, like more serious and grave and kind of, he had a twinkle, but he, a kindness to him, but he was also very serious. So to see him as kind of a brash, young, shit-talking, somebody who thought it was a good idea to join the military and really seems to have put a lot of faith into that structure. And I don't want anybody that's military out there to hear that, we're talking about, or
no, we
police officer or whatever. People are part of institutions that we need, in my opinion, to support us as a society. But that does not mean power corrupts, and there are people that get into those positions and they use them for extremely nefarious purposes.
So, I mean, there's a lot of talk with clinicians who work with veterans who we immensely hero worship, as clinicians too. And we support soldiers, we support veterans. We're a bit iffy on the military systemic structure.
Right.
It's necessary. And just like you were saying, Mandy, there's a lot of abuses. Even in the show, there's a lot of racism. I mean, we're getting a little fluffiness from Shaw, which honestly probably wouldn't happen that much, where he's calling out racist people.
Right.
But, later on in the episode, they talk about what it's actually like to be a Black person in the military in 1962 or today. That doesn't change. Hanlon saves Halloran from yeeting himself out of the airplane.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah, that was really intense. And then they circle back around and we see Halloran, in the medic area and recovering. And it seems like when Halloran says, like you said, it wasn't supposed to see us, it wasn't supposed to know, that felt really ominous. And it spoke to me to the hubris that can happen to the military machine and any military machine of like, you thought you were going to go after this creature that you know enough about to know that it's powerful, intense, powerful, and you have no plan really other than Hanlon. You have no plan for how to deal with this entity.
Right.
If it knows about you and it comes after you.
Right. Like, so I'm the enemy. I love that. I think that's part of his awakening of what a bad idea it was to allow himself to be used in this way. And then I wonder too, so we're going to move forward a little bit before I say this, because the next two scenes are that we give what I'm calling the Native civic meeting. The Native community is meeting to talk about how the military is doing all this testing out on their tribal lands and what exactly they're doing. And that's where we find out for sure that the little girl from the beginning was, in fact, Rose. She seems to have secret knowledge, like you've talked about, that other people in the tribe don't have. She is not yelling about, she doesn't want to stop them until she figures out what they're trying to do.
And that's the part that made me realize, the children of Maturin are part of this tribe. That's not everyone. They don't all know.
Yeah, because definitely there were a lot of people there that were upset about them using the tribal land, but don't seem to have any inkling of how very dangerous that might be.
What did you make of Rose's nephew comes in, the hottie, like that we saw from the boy band pose before, when he wants to make a move as, a young adult would, and Rose says, "You're needed." I'm so curious. They've clearly been protecting the people of Derry and honestly the entire planet from Pennywise. So I'm just so curious to learn more about the indigenous people and how
that's
they
playing out.
Yeah, I mean,
what I got from that was that he is going to be needed to be a warrior in whatever this fight is that's coming up, and she doesn't want him to go blundering in and getting himself arrested or in trouble for some of this. Because it's different evils going on at one time.
Yeah.
You've got the overreach of the government completely ignoring their tribal identity and taking over. And that's what this kid wants to go and start raising hell about. But she's like, we got bigger fish to fry here. Yeah. That's the battle. You can't go getting yourself killed or arrested because I need you here for that. Yeah. So we flash back from the Native American meeting to they're back on the helicopter and they're figuring out that Dick Halloran has some kind of, he's not possessed but something is going on. And that's when Hanlon starts to remember about the experiment with the people that were able to control the goats with their mind. His friend is like, is this some kind of goat shit that's going on?
That sounds like something I would say. Like, I'm just terribly summarizing something I passively heard.
Right. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Then we go into the diner. The kids are back at the diner. Will and Rich are sitting around talking. I love that Rich is bringing back the teenage boy obsession with boobs.
Oh, he's so gross.
Yeah. Did they not
Just
call him
like his
tatas where you're
namesake.
from? Because he's like, who do you think has the best tatas? And Will says, what? And he goes,
I know.
don't they call him tatas where you're from? Like he's deeply concerned that he's not going to get that.
Right. He's so like Richie, like his future, I guess he's the namesake for Richie. But yeah, and I like how like Will is so respectful. Will is like, I'm not having this conversation.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up about him kind of being a stand-in for Richie, because I think, and this has been tickling my mind the whole time we've been watching this idea that what they're going to show us over these 3 seasons is how the Losers Club played out in some iteration over and over and over again before they finally defeated it, hopefully. It cannot be a coincidence. It just struck me this episode that, and I was going to bring this up later on when we get to the scene where they're in the cemetery, but the bicycling, it was very much like when Bill and Richie Tozier were running away from the house with, this, I can't remember the name of the street, Cars on Street, I think it is, that it's Will and Rich, and then you've got Bill and Richie in the Losers Club in it. And I can't think that that's a coincidence. I think that was a deliberate choice, because I don't think that, well, obviously Will is Mike Hanlon's side, that they're not biologically related to those two characters. But it is like a foreshadowing of
like
how,
an avatar.
Yeah, like an avatar. Yes, perfect. That's exactly what I was trying to think of, is that in a lot of ways that these kids are all avatars of a cycle that just keeps happening over and over and over again. And to a certain degree, it feels like this is to show that this calling together to defeat it, it happens throughout every single cycle. And maybe it's even the same souls,
Oh, so I have another tinfoil hat theory. What if Maturin, or my favorite little grandpa turtle, is creating these avatars of this group of kids with similar personalities, so they'll gel and bond in this town to fight Pennywise until they're able to kill it.
Yeah, that's kind
which
of
is what we finally see, because he does. Maturin goes out, I mean, as much as he can, go after Pennywise.
Well, I think that's kind of what I was getting at, except I didn't think that of the fact that it might be that I was kind of thinking they were going to keep that kind of vague as far as, were you going to pick up on the fact that these names, you may or may not as a viewer pick up on that it was a symbolic, but you are 100% right. It might explicitly be that these are the same souls that are being brought together over and over again until they could finally defeat him in that last iteration. That might be why they're doing. We may have just blown the doors off this whole thing.
Also, I have kind of like a grump theory on why we had to wait until the Losers came around. I'm getting a feeling that these iterations, these avatars, one or more of them die, so they don't have this collective power before they're adults.
Well,
and are able to defeat it.
Interesting you said that, because I definitely think the reason I wanted to make sure we didn't skip the diner scene is that Richie tells this story. He recognizes that Will has blundered because he doesn't really believe Ronnie, but he wants her to think that he believes it because he's got a big crush on her. And
when they're like riding the bikes back?
Yeah, well, here where she's figured out that he doesn't really believe her. He's talking about why he wants to believe her. And Richie says, it's because you're in love. And he's like, no, I'm not. And he's like, no, you are. And he's such a little romantic. And he starts talking about, these girls that he thinks are pretty. And he's, what love will make you do. And he says, love will make you write a poem on the inside of your shoe. Clearly, he's talking about the fact that he has written a poem on the inside of his shoe. I got to tell you, pretty sure we're going to see the inside of that shoe at some point. And it ain't with Rich's foot in it. I actually have started referring to him in my notes as Red Shirt Rich.
I think that's so accurate. I'll talk about it more when we get to the cemetery scene, because it came up for me when I was watching the cemetery scene.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page about poor Rich and where we may or may not be going with him.
Yeah. But that would make sense of one or more of the avatars when they're kids don't make it, so they're not at full power until they're adults.
Right.
Like, we know Stanley unalives himself, but he did that for the group when they were adults.
Yeah.
So all of them survived as children to go on to be adults. They had all that power now. So I don't know. Like I was like, oh, maybe this is
definitely
why.
think you're onto something with that. And it would, because I knew they had a plan for the reasoning they were doing it in reverse chronological order. Seems to be a hit. So hoping we're going to at least get one more season out of this. But I think we're onto something there. And that's going to be really interesting to see it play out. So then we're back at Secondhand Rose, and General Shaw comes in, and now it is obvious that they are childhood friends. And here I want to bring up something that's pretty cool about the show Future, our show, What's On Tonight. We have been in contact with the actress who plays Rose, Kimberly Norris Guerrero, who I know you are a massive fan of.
I'm a huge fan. I have such a crush. And she's an amazing actress and activist.
Yeah, she is a very cool lady. I didn't know her before I started watching Welcome to Derry, but everything I know about her now, I cannot wait. We're in the beginning stages of talking to her about coming on and doing an interview. She says she's very excited. We're just kind of working with her team to try to get that scheduled, but I cannot wait to sit down and pick her brain about not just this role, but her life in general, because she is a really, really fascinating lady. But at any rate, so we're back at Secondhand Rose. She and Shaw obviously had this one magical summer together when they were 12 years old. And we find out that Shaw doesn't really remember anything about Derry until he got there. So that is yet another thing about the It universe that they're going to continue here in Welcome to Derry. And this was the moment, I think, that I've referenced earlier, where I locked in and said, okay, they're not going to let me down here, because this makes it all so much more interesting. Yeah. This means there's every possibility that either he's being called back right now by Lily. Maybe Lily's whole plan is to use her old friend Shaw, who now has military powers, to try to blow this thing up.
Yeah.
Or
because it's free now.
Right.
So one of the things I think we probably won't find out until the 1908 season, how it got free.
Right.
Because we see it in 1935. It's free. So like I was very much locked on to how she said that they were safe as long as they were out of the forest. And I'm like, so he's stuck there. And it makes sense. I believe in the book they talk about him breaking free too. So I'm fascinated to know. And I love that theory, Mandy, because I think she's doing this now because I like, why now would be a question. Maybe this is when Shaw is higher enough in the military to bring him back and be like, we got to put him back into the forest. We got to store him somewhere because he's wandering everywhere, and we let him go in 1908. I think that's what happened.
Yeah. Maybe.
So I'd just be fascinated.
The revelation that he was from Derry originally and that they have a relationship together, it's restored my faith. Like, it was wavering a little bit at the beginning of this episode where I was like, where are they going to, is this going to be the native community is just going to be anachronistically magical and that they're just a prop for, the white people? Is this going to be just this cliche thing? But this is so much more complex than that.
Yeah.
More nuanced. So I'm back on board, baby.
We do know it's all going to end horribly.
Yeah, we know it's going to go bad.
like no one better touch my girl Rose.
I think we got 2 people in this. 3 people that are for sure going to live. Everybody else.
There's only 3 people who have plot armor.
Yeah. Everybody else.
Everyone else is not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We do know some of the Shakapiwa tribe do continue to exist because Mike Hanlon goes and talks to them about how to trap it.
Right.
But they're not enough to help him. So I'm very curious about either that or the writing just like was using them as a caricature and a stereotype. I'm fascinated because this is all going to end horribly. It has to before the Losers Club starts. And it's going to be like slow motion car wreck.
Or maybe it doesn't. And that's, or maybe it doesn't end horribly. Maybe it ends with him being trapped again. The military doesn't seem to remember any of this in 2017.
No.
So it can't have gone too awry, or it would have been part of Mike Hanlon's whole spiel about the history of Derry. So maybe it's just contained in that. I don't know. That's just what we'll have to see.
So
I'm back. I'm locked in. Next, the kids move on to the lighthouse, which was the lair of Maddie's that he shared with Teddy and Phil in the first episode, and then eventually Lily, where she told him that she didn't like him like that. But now it's going to be like their new Losers Club hideout.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of game planning what they're going to do because they've decided that they've got to get proof. The way that Lily is going to try to make this right and get Hank Grogan, which is just, this feels so desperately naive and like the logic that all of these adults have proven over and over and over again that they do not want to see the victimization that is going on of certain people. So
I thought
the idea
for
that
sure
can
that
get
they
a
weren't going
photo-
to get it.
Me too. I think, though, so their whole thing is that they're going to get photographic evidence of this monster so that when Lily goes and confesses to Chief Bauer that this is what really happened in the theater and it had nothing to do with Hank, they're going to be able to show them this proof. And they do end up getting the proof, or at least getting some photographs, but I think that the photographs are either going to end up not being there when they take them to the chief,
Ooh.
or they're just going to say
Yeah.
it's the kids fooling around or, props or something like that. I definitely don't think it's going to make a difference.
No, I don't either. I hadn't thought about that only the kids could see the images on the photographs, but the adults wouldn't be able to see it.
In my head, it's a bait and switch that it's just Pennywise giving them some false hope so that it can be snatched back from them later on.
I agree.
I don't see a universe where they go and they hand these photos over and everybody goes, well, my bad, Hank Grogan. Let's let you out of prison now.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, photos aren't going to help systemic racism.
Right.
Because I was curious when I was watching the episode, because like Andy Machete talks about it, photographic evidence of it hasn't really been discussed. There's some pictures we see in the movies about him, but he's mostly in his human form and like blurred in the background sometimes.
It's not like dead children's faces.
So I thought for sure, I'm like, that's not going to show up. I was pleasantly surprised.
We're skipping ahead a little bit. So after the lighthouse scene, we flash back to the Hanlon house where
Halloran flirts with Hanlon the entire time in front of his wife.
Yeah. Well,
I was like,
funny you said that because I thought he was flirting with the wife there. But then, I did think that it kind of seemed like he was flirting with Hanlon. You don't really know. It's a weird dinner. But they're having dinner at the Hanlon house, and Charlotte is clearly still uncomfortable with Derry. She doesn't really fit in, and
they won't let her teach.
Right, and Halloran knows all this because he has The Shining, so he can get into her brain and kind of figure it out, which we hear a little bit more about here in a minute. So they are having this dinner, and it turns out that Charlotte you can see some cracks in the Hanlon marriage. She is not happy. Her husband, Leroy, is not encouraging or is not supporting her. She desperately wants to get involved back in the civil rights movement, especially since she can't work, she can't teach.
Yeah.
But he is obviously very against it. And she calls it out, too. She's like, makes total sense that you two are going to agree with each other. You're both in the military.
You two fly boys sticking together.
Right. Dick wanted to stick together with his flyboy. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I was surprised watching it.
It was a weird vibe. No, I picked up that vibe, too.
Yeah, because he's winked at him before. And then, before they were getting on the plane, he was like, how's it hanging, fellas? And, their awkward response.
So you think it's a little weird in the closet? You think?
Maybe. Yeah, I
can see
definitely.
it. No, I didn't really, like I said, that weird vibe at dinner. But I don't know if it's just the actor just is that charismatic, or maybe that is absolutely, because it would make sense that he's always bragging about women and things like that if he's compensating. Yeah. So after dinner, the two men are sitting out on the porch and flirting. And Hanlon flat out, Halloran slipped at dinner and asked about their son, Will. Turns out no one had ever told him about Will. So Hanlon calls him out on that when they're sitting outside. And he says, furthermore, when he realized that Dick was the guy like you called last episode that was just sitting there staring when he was getting that beating. And he said that he could actually feel something going on in his brain when that happened, which just shows Hanlon is his own type of superhero. I don't know if it's just the injury to his brain or if just inherently he's got some abilities that are just a little bit different. I mean, I know that they're ascribing it to the damage in his brain. And as a matter of fact, Halloran goes on to say, when I was in your head, there is no fear where fear should be. Like, all you are is strategy and cunning. And I'm not trying to mess with that. And so there is something different there. But the fact that he could feel it, because it seems to, most people can't.
Yeah, most people don't. I think Halloran's quote, if I could be wrong, says to him, "You're not a man I'd fuck with."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, dick.
Yeah. But I love the way that they just like understood each other, you know, because I do think that there's going to have to be a coalition among a lot of these characters that are the few in this town that can recognize the danger, even though Hanlon's definitely not there yet. I think he's, after this episode, he's definitely starting to. I'm really, really interested to see where that storyline's going to go, because I feel like there's going to be some sort of call in where it's made obvious that lack of fear is not always a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, on the one hand, quite obviously, it makes him well suited to go up against Pennywise because Pennywise preys on fear. But on the other hand, fear is a byproduct of recognizing danger. And if you have no fear, now we know he lives through this, but I wonder if his lack of fear is going to end up costing him someone he loves.
I think you're absolutely right. And that would leave our precious Charlotte, because we know Will has to survive. He has plot armor too.
Right.
Because in the 2017 movie, which we know this is what the series is following, those two movies, he's raising Mike Hanlon on a farm, which is very different to where we're seeing the Hanlons right now. So I think you're absolutely right. I think this is going to go very terribly. And it just sort of popped into my head as you were describing it. I think he's going to be on the belief train real fast. When we rationalize away things that make us uncomfortable, that does come from fear, a fear of the possibilities. And we see that a lot in the adults in Derry. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to go there. And logic would say, why not? Just take a look at it. It's the emotion mind that says, like, no, it's fine. We don't want to think about this. He doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So he would be more logical and strategic now that Will is being involved. And the different things that he's seeing with Dick Halloran too, he is going to be on the belief train a lot quicker than everyone else.
I agree too, but I also think that his character has been shown to have a bit of an arrogance about himself that may come from this lack of fear. Yeah, hubris, right. And I fear that what's going to happen is that Charlotte is going to end up paying the price for him perhaps not being afraid enough. I mean, clearly he has a belief in the supernatural. He says he's from, the Louisiana area, and where he's from, a lot of people, if you don't know somebody who has this gift, you know somebody who knows somebody who has this gift. So he has no problem believing in the intangible, I'll say, but he doesn't have a fear of it. But I think we both agree it's probably not going to be good.
No, especially, I mean, they keep having those white neighbors side-eye them. It makes me nervous every time. And just like the implicit threat in that. Very worried about the Hanlon family.
Yeah. So final scene, we'll get to the cemetery. I saw it on two levels. There were moments where Rich has told them that his uncle practiced Santeria. It turns into a cousin later on. We don't really know if any of this is true. He's Cuban, so he does know that in the Santeria culture, Orishas are spirits, and a lot of them are evil spirits. And sometimes a Santeria priest can call up a bad spirit to get revenge on their enemies. And he says, according to his alleged uncle, who may or may not exist, that they will often take the forms of past loved ones, which makes everybody believe he knows what he's talking about, because they keep seeing these dead kids, people that they love. So he tells them they need to go have a seance. The best way to get it to come forward so that they can get photographic evidence. Of course, they don't know it's quote unquote it yet. They just know something is going on. And the best way to get evidence of that is to go do this seance in the cemetery. And on the one hand, when they're bicycling, they're trying to get away. It's just like some of the special effects looked really cheesy. But then on the other hand, I kind of dug it because it had this kind of 80s kids vibe of like Goonies or
Yes.
Gremlins.
The cemetery scene when they were prepping for it was a little boring. I understand it's character exposition and bonding, and the girls realize the boys don't believe them, and then they take off. I was just like, okay, all right, whatever. And then yes, when the spirits started coming out, and like you, I was like, special effects are not the best. And then I remembered as they were chasing each one individually, the only people who have plot armor in this entire series is Will Hanlon, Leroy Hanlon, and Dick Halloran. Those are the only 3 characters in this show that have plot armor.
Yeah.
So I was watching it a little wonderfully stressed out, wondering if one or more was going to
I thought Rich was a goner. I thought that was where we were going to be seeing Rich's shoe poem. It's right there. So like you said, they get mad because they realize that Rich is just making all this up. For the most part, he doesn't really know how to do a seance, and the girls go off on their own. And then Will and Rich get separated from each other. And Will is just talking about how he wishes that he believed, but he just doesn't believe in any of this stuff. They all start getting attacked by these nightmare things. The kids, the Phil and Teddy and Susie all show up, and
Maddie,
they're all dead and gross, and they're chasing him. But Will actually gets separated, and was he in the sewer? What was he in? What was that structure?
So it looked like some sort of tomb. The earth broke apart and he fell into it looked like some sort of catacomb tomb. I wasn't really worried for him because, again, he has plot armor. He's one of the only ones.
Yeah, the stakes weren't quite as high, but this is where Pennywise finally shows up for the kids. Yeah, we did get a glimpse at him and Dick Halloran's psychic bonding with him earlier.
Yeah.
But now he takes a photo. Oh my God, that camera. If they had dropped that damn camera one more time, that was driving me insane.
I was like, what do you guys do? I mean, props to them. I would totally have forgotten the camera. Yeah, the way that they just kept dropping it and dropping it. I'm like, okay, now you're stressing me out in a really good way, though. I like the scene now.
It was building the tension, that's for sure. Yeah. But so at the end, Will has the camera. He takes a photo of something menacing that's in the corner, and they have to go and figure out how to develop these photos.
I really just like the hug at the end. Ronnie's so sweet. Mad at him and then hugged him, and then they all did a group hug, and I was like, aww.
2 things, though, I want to reiterate where that kind of plays into our Avatar theme is the biking away is very reminiscent of Richie and Bill Denbrough having to get away from that haunted house. And that was very explicitly, I think, a callback to that. So that's yet another way where we see history rhyming. And the poem itself, I want to point out, is a callback to the Losers Club, because Ben Hansen he wrote that poem for Bev that ended up being, how Bev found out that when they were adults that he had a crush on her all those years ago. So I think this is just more evidence of these kids maybe doing this over several lifetimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So they leave and they go break into the school and go to the photography lab, and they teach themselves how to develop photography. At least for now, as we discussed, they've got photographic proof of these crazy, horrible things that they're going to go, and those blessed little sweet souls are going to go try to get Hank Rogan out by showing it. And the very last one is the one Will took, and definitely see what looks like Pennywise glooming in the dark. And that's where we end.
The only thing that came up for me that I wanted to bring up is, okay, what if Derry does exist, but no one knows because as soon as you leave, you forget?
Like in real life? Maybe we've all been to Derry?
Yes.
We've all forgotten it?
Yeah, because whoever lives there forgets about it as soon as they leave.
But then wouldn't you still be able to find it on a map? Because it's not like you just don't know that Derry doesn't exist. You just don't remember anything about being there.
Only if the maps were made in Derry.
No, because the kids, even in all of the iterations, the adults, when they're away, if you said Derry, Maine, they were aware there was a Derry, Maine.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
They just don't remember what happens there. But you know what? This is the kind of memory that Pennywise might plant in my head if I really have been.
Because they kept talking about, you forget once you leave. And I was like, Oh, what if it does exist?
Is Derry
But that
Hotel
would make sense.
California?
Oh.
No, because you can check out anytime you like,
But you
anytime you
can
like,
never
but you can
leave.
never leave. Whereas Derry, you can leave. You just may not remember
Yes.
checking out.
Yes. Or anything that happened while you're there.
Right. I don't know. Good thoughts. So now that we've done this breakdown, chilling moments. What do you think was maybe the scariest moment in this episode for you?
Gotta say, the half naked, bad CGI man, spider
Man.
crawling and howling, chasing that kid Shaw alone in a forest. I just imagine myself in these situations
As
like
a
the kids go
kid.
through. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
even as an adult, I would pee myself.
Sure. Yeah. No, I was kind of like eye rolling about the CGI again, but when I could put myself in the mind of a 12-year-old who would look at that, and I could absolutely see why that is terrifying. This was more an unsettling episode for me. Nothing made me like, yeah, and jump out of my seat. But I am properly terrified because I am scared for the future of a lot of people in this town. We are all on the same page that this is going to be a bloodbath. A lot of people are going to die in the end, and a lot of good people are going to end up losing their lives. The scariest parts for me is when Hank Grogan was talking to Bowers and he was using intimidation tactics, even though he knows that Hank did not do this.
Yeah.
The reality of that situation of what do you do when you are imprisoned in the system and you know that you're innocent, but maybe there are things that you don't want to be forthcoming about, things that other people might find incriminating. You don't want to offer that up so that it can be used as a weapon against you, but sometimes you just have no control over that. Like, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Absolutely. And knowing that no matter what you say, they've already decided on you based on the color of your skin.
Yeah. Especially in this scene,
Yeah.
it's this idea that, people are going to look at you and they're going to see a set of data points and they're not going to see you as a human being. And if they have all the power, you are completely at their mercy. Like if it was coming after me, those are my nightmares. That is a much more real fear for me in 2025 than it would have been in, say, 2015.
Yeah, we are much closer to going backwards in time. The Handmaid's Tale, the author's been very explicit by saying nothing she wrote in there is fictional. It's all based on history of what happened to Black and brown people, to women in all the ages. Like you said, like seeing that scene, it made my stomach drop.
Yeah.
Because really, he's the number one character I fear for in the show. Really.
Yeah.
It just has to do with a racist, power-hungry chief and a very, very white town.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Like Emmett Till and all of these situations. It's just, it's heartbreaking and nauseating to watch.
Yeah, it absolutely should be. And that's what art should be used for, is to show you the things, to unsettle you. I think a lot of us have this desire to turn away from things that don't affect us. And our own brain will lie to us and tell us, didn't see anything over there.
Nope.
And it's a lot easier.
Don't want to think about it.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a bad thing that we are experiencing this with Hank and really taking a moment to put yourself in his shoes. Final thoughts, yay or nay? I'm going to say big ol' yay. I mean, there was more exposition, I think, in this one. There was a lot of building of the plot, but I think it worked. Finding out that Shaw and Rose have a past, that was a big shock. So, yeah, it's a big yay for me.
Same. Big yay for me for all of those reasons. I love learning more about the origins of Pennywise. It's something that's always fascinated me.
Yeah.
I love learning more about the children of Maturin and the Chapawea tribe. And I really liked it.
I'm loving that the show is succeeding. It's much more correct in my mind because we live in a diverse world.
Yes, I think a lot of people, a lot of white people especially, tend to look at the world through a lens of these were my experiences, so what you're saying can't be true. And that is a very, very ignorant stance. So yes, critical race theory. I highly encourage it. This show is definitely bringing up critical race theory and different things that have been happening. So
feel sometimes like people who just wander into one episode or two episodes of this podcast might feel like in certain episodes that they're just getting a lecture and it's maybe things that they just feel like we are just far left tree hugging, hippy dippy. I'm going to go on record saying I don't think there's anything wrong with being any of those three things.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily describe me. I'm not a joiner. I just use common sense. Not that it's always all that common. And I think, well, common sense and compassion tied together, because I'm also a Christian and I have a belief system that, you're supposed to love each other as you love yourselves. You're supposed to take care of your neighbors. Jesus in the Bible talks a lot about the marginalized, and every faith tradition that I know of talks a lot about at the core. If you're doing it right, you're supposed to be looking out for people who are falling in the margins of society and protecting them. People that don't believe it, they think that it's this very simplistic thing, that everybody that thinks like you and I, we're really just naive hippies who sit around and sing Kumbaya and think that every black and brown or gay or female person or trans person is a saint. That is absolutely false.
That is very Pennywise mind-washing, brainwashing in Derry, that's fear-based. And it's a fear-based rationalization. And this is something where I always struggle with it, because I know people of color and other marginalized individuals, it's feeling seen and heard in a space where the show is clearly touching upon these subjects and for very obvious reasons. And also they know about this, where we're telling them something they already know. And it is a way to name that in a public forum. And also kind of get the word out a little bit to people who think it isn't happening.
Most people don't believe systemic racism or how poverty breeds crime. We all have our own journeys, but I would say a lot of you couldn't have lasted 5 minutes in my life. So don't come at me telling me that I am naive or that I don't know how the world works. I don't ascribe motives to history. It played out the way it played out, but I am a Christian and I believe in a better world. We cannot make a better world if we don't acknowledge where we could have done better in the past. Marginalized people have always been the ones that are victimized when times are bad. To not acknowledge that, that's the real naivety.
Because I've been a social justice advocate, anti-racism for a couple of years now at this point. If you're finding yourself reacting to this, pause, and instead of transferring how you're feeling onto the messenger, look at why you're having such a reaction to the message.
Yeah.
If you're having a reaction, that's okay, but that's not from the messenger. It's the message itself. And why does it make you uncomfortable? I've been working on this for a long time, and I make mistakes all the time, no matter how hard I try. And if someone is brave enough to come and tell me, hey, what you said was kind of racist, or what you did kind of offensive because of my race or my gender or my sexuality, I thank them. And of course I feel shame, because I that's not my value, but that's not on them. They're just pointing out to me my flaw. And so that's a very big ask for people of marginalized communities, because they can be very much attacked for that.
It's not really fair either. It is what it is.
No,
it often has to be.
I do my own work. Look inward. Don't try to project your feelings onto the messenger. You got to figure out where this is coming from in you.
In general, animals are deeply uncomfortable with change. And there has been a lot of social change in the last 20 years. Bad actors have been able to find what your bigotry is, controlling your fear, whatever it is, your bigotry. That's how they've gotten into you. And we can do better. Every single one of us should stop. And when you feel yourself reacting from a place of bigotry, do what Sam talked about. Sit and feel that, and then really ask yourself, where does that feeling come from? And instead of immediately attacking whoever it is who has pointed out that you have just done or said something, don't just automatically assume that they are wrong. You stop and figure out why you had that emotion.
Just, as we're sort of tying this up, there's a really good example in psychology. If you are having a fight or flight response, such as your heart is racing, your palms are sweating, and you're having a big reaction to words that aren't actively threatening your life, or actions such as someone coming at you with a knife, that's not about what's happening in the moment. Something from your past is coming up. You should not be having a fight or flight response to a conversation.
Yeah.
So if you are, something from the past is coming up for you. It actually has very little to do with the person in front of you.
Yeah.
Just sort of a heads up. It's a good thing to be self-reflective on. I do it all the time. Practice it just in case. So before Becky kills us, because we have like a 2.5 hour thing.
Sorry, Becky. We could cut all this
Becky.
out. So we don't really have any show notes or news, but we do have some feedback via our What's On Tonight Facebook page. Alma wrote in on episode 3, and here's her thoughts. That flashback opening was terrifying. It reminded me a bit of Something Wicked This Way Comes. Yes, agreed, Alma. When I was a kid, that movie scared me. Agreed again.
Yep.
I'm glad they let Lily out of the asylum. I wonder how long she stayed there. Yeah, that was an unanswered question. We don't really know. I know that officer was Francis. Only someone coming in contact with it could be seeking it out. Rose knows stuff. I can't wait to see what she knows. This show keeps getting better and better. I'm so intrigued.
Aww.
Thank you for writing in, Alma. We love hearing from you.
Yes.
If you would like to leave us some feedback or just say hi, you can email or send us a voice message as an attachment to What's On Tonight and the letter 2 at gmail.com.
You can visit our Facebook page where there will be a post for the next episode, and you can leave feedback in the comment section or send us a message through Facebook Messenger. We can be found on Instagram as well at What's On Tonight Podcast with the number 2. We would greatly appreciate it if you'd leave a comment, like, and or share on your podcast listening app of choice.
Let's take a bike ride through the cemetery with the new Losers Club and talk and share where else listeners can hear us. This is a good place to give podcast recommendations, TV suggestions, or anything else we'd like to share. I do want to one more time pitch the Last Podcast on the Left series that they've just wrapped up about Heinrich Himmler. I think it's ended up being 4 or 5 episodes. I love Last Podcast on the Left. It is not for everybody. They are very blue. They're very irreverent. They're not religious, and they can poke fun at any and all religion, and they will and do. But that series has just been incredibly helpful for me. It's very well researched. It's very well documented. And it's also really easy to listen to because those guys are funny. If you have a high tolerance for irreverent humor, they're very funny, but they're also very smart. And it really helped me to learn more about how this country and the current political climate is and is not like Nazi Germany, because when you see the parallels, they're there. But it's also very comforting because there are a lot of ways in which we are not Nazi Germany, and it is not nearly as easy for these asshats to come in and break down our institutions. So I want to recommend that, and just remind everybody, thank God it looks like the government is finally going to open up again. I'm not real thrilled with how that happened, but the good news is that people are going to start getting paid again, and the SNAP benefits should hopefully start going out soon. That being said, we're still in an economic crunch, and it hasn't happened yet. So if you can, please donate to your local food bank.
Yeah, and it looks like, unfortunately, a lot of us are going to get our insurance tripled. It's gonna be pretty bad. There's a TV series on Netflix. It's based on a true story, but it's a fictionalized account of a Polish ferry liner that crashed into the Baltic Sea, and a lot of people died. And there's a bunch of cover-ups. It happened in the 1990s. I've never heard about it, but the TV show was incredible. It's like 6 episodes, and I marathoned that sucker. It was really, really good to watch. Really great actors. And just a little plug for my little show, Still Slaying. Penny, Kara, and I do that. We're covering Buffy and Angel, and we just did one of the most recent episodes that should come out pretty soon. That's all I've been gandering, if that's a word.
All right. So as always, we want to give a big thank you to Mark and Pirate Core Entertainment for giving us this platform. Please visit the Pirate Core page. It can be found on our Facebook page. There you can also find our podcast as well as other podcasts like my very own Dinner for Her, Adrenaline Cinema podcast, and Panels to Pixels podcast, as well as other projects Mark is working on.
They're having Lara and Billy are covering the Talamasca, which is a show I've been watching too. And they're doing a fantastic job. Well, that wraps up our coverage of episode 3. Mandy and Becky will be back next week to discuss episode 4, titled The Great Swirling Apparatus of Our Planet's Function.
Yikes.
Holy moly.
Yikes. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Compassion is the wish to see others free from suffering. That's a great quote, Becky. Becky, who did the notes, even though she's not here, her little hands are all over this.
Yes.
As we discussed last week, a lot of people are suffering due to the government shutdown as well as other issues in life. So please be compassionate and help as much as you can. I am Mandy.
I am Sam.
We will catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight.